Yay, Vespi, you made it. Oh, I'm doing alright. How is the volume of the music on the stream? Is it too loud? So I think I'm just gonna leave it running for the stream, but I don't want it to be like drowning me out. How about that, Vespi? Is that better? Oh, of course, the song ends. Alright, is that good? Alright. So today we're gonna do something a little different. We're gonna play around with Canvas. Which not too many people are familiar with Canvas anyways, but it's a fun little tool in web development that you can use for like drawing things. But not just drawing things, you can animate things, and you can get so far as to making little games out of it as well. So, we got our blank page. What we want to do is simply put a canvas element on our page like so. Yeah, it's not used very often for most things, but it is used quite often for like browser-based games. Gino, that happened a long time ago. Alright, so we have our canvas element here. How big is that? That's a bit big. Alright, that's much better. Alright, so what we need to do to start playing with Canvas is we need some JavaScript here. And we're going to create basically a game object. That's not going to be too complex, but depending on how long the stream goes, it could we could get quite a ways with it. The plan here is we are going to include the script. And then we are going to create a new instance of our game object, passing in the ID of our canvas. And the reason for that is now we want to go in here and get a hold of the element. So I'm assuming not many of you are familiar with game development in general, but not just the element on the page, but we also need a context of the element, which is what we use to draw on. Which we can grab straight off of the canvas element itself. And because we're not doing any 3D stuff with this, we're just going to use a 2D context. And then just to show how this is working. We are going to draw a simple little rectangle here. So as you can see, simply by, we have a method on the context to draw a rectangle where we give it a x coordinate, a y coordinate, a width, and a height. And we can draw a rectangle, or a square in this case. Which is kind of boring, but you can do a lot more stuff with that. So to get into a little more of that, when we want to do any kind of animation, we need to update the animation is made frame by frame, and we need to draw each frame individually at a rate that isn't so fast that you don't see the transition, but isn't so slow that it's choppy. So generally we try to go for 60 frames per second, which all of you gamers are familiar with this frames per second from your games. And that's basically all it is how many frames it draws every second. Fortunately for us, JavaScript has a nice little function called request animation frame that does the best that it can to draw 60 frames per second. So to kind of give an example of how this works, we're just going to move some of these properties into an object. Move these up in here. Hey Slippy. So this here should do the same thing, except you see the square got a little bit darker, and we'll explain that in a second. So what we also want to mess around with here is... Alright, so let me explain this real quick. So what this is doing is I'm calling this function tick. It runs this code, then it calls request animation frame tick. And what request animation frame does is it tries its best to get 60 frames per second. So it tries to call this frame in 1/60th of a second. So it'll get that, whatever that comes down to in milliseconds, and do the best it can to then call this method at that time interval. So you try to get a smooth 60 frames per second. It's not perfect, but it's about as close as we can get in JavaScript. So to play around with this a little bit more, we want to show how that works as far as animation goes. Every frame we're going to increase the X position. If we do that, you can see it moves. But it's just drawing a giant black square now, which is not exactly what we want it to do. because we don't want every frame that we draw, we don't want the previous frame still on the screen, which is what's happening here. It's redrawing the square every time, but it's not deleting the previous square, so it just looks like it's drawing a line. So what we want to do as well is, before we draw, we want to clear the screen. So we're gonna do call clear rect here, which just clears a rectangular area that we're just putting at the 0, 0 position of the canvas, which is the top left corner, and doing the full width of the canvas to clear the whole thing. So we do that, and it's almost working. I'm actually a little confused why it's not fully deleting everything. Helps if I do these right. So it's still not clearing the rectangle. Super excited to see this masterpiece. This masterpiece is not going to happen by the end of the day today. I can guarantee that. Because there's so much stuff that goes into this that it's not really something you could sit down in 2 hours. I can't give away spoilers, Vespi. You gotta naturally see it come to life. I'm thinking these variables are just not right, so let's hard code those for now. It's still not deleting it. So I'm probably just doing something wrong that's stupid. It is the size that I made the canvas, right? Yeah. Well, this isn't going to,
Baby girl, you're so damn fine, though. Wanna know if I can hit it from behind, though. I'm sipping on you like some fine wine, though. When it's over, I press rewind, though. Talking bands.
if it doesn't want to clear the screen, this isn't going to go very well for us.
I traded my truth for some robins, and he's playing Batman. Freddy's gonna rob him.
So let's see, what are we doing wrong here?
17 shots, no 38. Yeah, I got the Glock in my robbery. 17 shots, no 38. Yeah, she's fine. Wondering will she be mine? Walk past, I press rewind. See that ass one more time. And I got this soda. Remy boys, they know us. Fast money, no slow. No one can control. Yeah, and I got this soda. Remy boys, they know us. Fast money, no slow. No one can control.
I am...
She's got class and style. Street knowledge by the pound, yeah. Baby never act wild.
just going to do a little bit of debugging here.
Catching feelings isn't all. Let me show you how it goes. Love's the word, spins the verb. Love is the color, freak what you are. I like the way you work it. No diggity. I'm about to bag it up. I like the way you work it. No diggity. I'm about to bag it up. I like the way you work it. No diggity. I'm about to bag it up.
So we do have these values. Don't have is our rectangle. I wonder if this is I wonder if this is one of those just weird things with it not wanting to clear. Because when you draw you can draw lines, you can draw all kinds of things, and sometimes lines disappear or don't disappear correctly. So I'm wondering if the rectangle is being treated like a line. It shouldn't be, though. I really don't think this should make a difference if I do it this way. Yeah, I didn't think so. Why does it not want to clear our rectangles? Yeah, it doesn't like me. I haven't actually done too much in Canvas in a long time. So I'm really not surprised that it doesn't like me. Let me look at something else real quick here without giving away any spoilers. So if I put it down there, it absolutely clears the canvas because it doesn't even show anything. So I'm probably just being dumb here. And not,
It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever
I'm just not doing something in the right order. Which doesn't make sense, but let me break some of this out real quick. We'll get a little bit of the structure of what we're going for anyways here. I don't need that because I can reference that here. Just for the sake of this example, we're going to move this out of there. Alright, everything's still working the way it was. There we go. I guess it helps if I use the right method for drawing the rectangle. So as you can see, it is clearing and redrawing, but it looks like the square is just moving on the screen for us. So then we can mess around with some math here. Width is greater than. Oh, we don't need that. If this is greater than. Let's do a little bit of math comparison there. And now we can get this square to just circle around. Which actually this should be that, so that it comes onto the page instead of just appearing on the page. And then we do the same thing with like the Y position as well. And we get it to move diagonally. That is really the very basics of how to animate anything in Canvas. So now what we want to do is start making this a little more complicated. So we want to take this. Get rid of this because we no longer need this. This will be a good, oh, this should be in the draw, not the update. A good example of what object-oriented programming is as well. So we're going to create our rectangle object. And then we're gonna kind of do the same thing here.
You would wipe away my tears, so sincere. Turn gray skies to blue.
We're just gonna copy these for the sake of simplicity.
Well, you can keep on talking.
So we basically just took what we use to draw that one rectangle and made the rectangle its own object to do that by itself. So then what we're going to do is we're going to create an array to hold this stuff in. And this is going to loop through our array and call the draw method on everything in it. This will loop through our body array, call the update method on it.
I just want you. I just want you. The words I never
And if we put a new instance of the rectangle object in the bodies, what am I missing? Okay. I did not pass that into the draw. And it's the same thing we just had with our rectangle. But because I set this up to be able to define the XY positions, I can just create new instances of the object, and now we have 4 of them. Hey Kovu, what's going on? This is where object-oriented programming really shines, is because I can just create a rectangle object, give it initial parameters. Everything else functions the exact same way. I just create new instances of the object, and they all do the same thing based on those initial parameters. If I want them all to start next to each other, I can do that. I want them to be all over the place. I can do that. And then they all just react the same way based on those initial parameters, which is exactly what we want to do when we're doing any kind of like game development or anything. So now, to get into some of the fun stuff, I am going to create a player object. And I'm going to use what is called a sprite sheet for this player, which I'll explain shortly what that means. We're going to change things up a little bit. So here we're defining the position of our squares by an XY coordinate, which isn't always the best way to do things. The way I generally like to do things is I like to define the exact center. And then you just draw everything else out based off the center. But it becomes a lot easier to do things like collision detection when you have the center point of an object than if you have like the top left corner of an object. Where is this gonna be at? I think it's gonna be like this. Then for the sake of saving time, I've already figured all this stuff out elsewhere. I'll explain what all that is in a little bit. But I didn't want to have to type all of that out on stream, because that would have been very boring for you guys to sit there and watch me do that. Alright, so what we want to do here... So there's a lot of things I've configured here. I've created a sprite of an image. I pulled in the image. I'm setting the current sprite to just anything really, because it's going to get overwritten eventually. But the current sprite index is important. This is going to define where our animation starts at and where it's going to loop through to. A start time and a state. The state is to define which animations to play. The start time is going to give us the... So 60 frames per second is what we want the game to run at, but that's not necessarily how fast we want our different images of the sprite to be displayed. So we kind of handle our time individually for those. And that's what this start time is. So again, like we did with our rectangles, we need an update and a draw method. It's just some simple math to get our animation to run every 50 milliseconds, which is pretty much I just played around with different time delays to figure out what looks best with the current sprite that I'm using. And this here, we're gonna keep increasing our sprite index, which is basically which our positions. We've defined different states as arrays of positions. We're going to loop through each of these for drawing, but when we get to the end, we want it to start back over at the beginning. So we're just increasing that number, and then if the number gets to be higher than the number of positions we have, we just start it back over from the beginning. And then here is a little bit complex, but not really. We're going to use draw image of our sprite, but then we need to give it we're going to go through this, which state we're drawing, which index of that state we're drawing, and then the first value is our X position, our Y position, our width and our height, and we also need our where at on the canvas we're going to draw it, which is the same as the XY width and height that we were doing with the rectangle. But we're going to calculate these based off our center position, and then our width and height of what we're going to draw is going to be based off the sprite, not the actual object. So then I also need to come in here and add our player to our page. I want to get rid of these. And I want this to just be a new player. If this worked correctly, which it didn't, that's not why it broke, but and that was wrong. Is that why? Can I read property 0 undefined? Oh, you know what it probably is because I don't have a walking state. I have a running state. So we do this, and we have an animation of a little character running. To explain how all that works, so the sprite that I have is basically this character in a whole bunch of different positions. What we're doing in our player object is for the running, I went through and found the X, the Y, the width, and the height of each little segment on this image of their running animation. Define those as they're running, and then we're just basically looping through this whole line of different images at a rate that puts them together to look like an animation. So let's actually put this closer to the middle of our canvas so it's not up here in the corner. But that's what we get, is a character that's running. And then because I defined it this with the different states, they can idle and they can jump. So, one thing that we could maybe play around with here . They can run. Can jump. And idle. And basically, when you get to the point of actually making the game, this is all you're going to be doing, is you're going to, when the keyboard buttons are pressed, you'd play the running animation and you would move the character across the screen. If they're not pressing anything, you'd set it to idle. If they hit whatever your jump key is, you'd do the jump, but you'd probably, the jumping would be a little more difficult because you would have to you'd have to time the jump animation with the actual movement of the character. So the jump, it looks like they're jumping up and then it looks like they're coming back down. So that one's a little more complicated, but the other ones, as far as running and idle, you basically just, if I'm pressing the key to run, you play the run animation. Yes, Vespi, you could theoretically make probably either of those games. Stardew Valley would be a little more difficult, but you could do it. Terraria, you could definitely do as a browser game. So now what we want to do is we actually want to be able to move this character. And this one's going to be fun, because I haven't done this stuff in a long time. So I'm going to have to see if I can remember how to do this. Basically, what we want to do is we can actually get rid of all this rectangle stuff because we don't need it anymore. This is all just for example. Some of this I might not need. But we want to capture key down events and log them. We want to capture key up events and log them as well. And then we also want to be able to check if a key is down. Actually, I think we just, for this part of it, do this. And then we want to define our key codes. So key codes, well, because Stardew Valley's not like strictly 2D. It's kind of got like that like 2.5D style to it, where you're not like looking straight on like a platformer like Terraria is. You're kind of, the camera goes kind of down on an angle, which kind of gives the impression of a three-dimensional world, even though it's not really a three-dimensional world. Which makes it slightly harder to make all of that work. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, Vespi. So all of our, to explain what I'm doing here, every key on your keyboard has a key code, basically. When you press a key on your keyboard, it tells your computer that, hey, I pressed this key code, and then your computer uses that key code to determine what to do. and it's no different in the browser. It works the same way. So just by knowing what keys are what, you can capture things by the key code. So we're gonna create our keyboard, and we are, actually we don't even need to do anything there. So we have this object that's gonna track when key down and key up events, and we have this method to call to check if a key is down. So here, we can go if this .game.keyboard is down. Oh man, this is going to get a little hairy, but it's alright. This dot center dot x minus equals 20, we'll say. We'll figure out what number that should be. Then we do the same thing for right of plus equals 20. So what this should do is every time it updates, it's going to check if you have the left or right keys down and move the position of the character. So if that worked right, which it doesn't seem like it did. Oh yeah, it did. There we go. So I can move the character around with my left and right keys. Except I have definitely the wrong animation going on here. So what I want to do is change this dot state to running. I want to do the same thing here. Might be moving a bit too fast. Let's see. So we can move left and right with the keys. This, then we can add in here idle. Then we're going to change the default starting state to idle. Idle, running. Oh, what did I break? No, I can't do that. What do I want to do here? Alright, I need to do this after because I'm changing state and that can, as you just saw, break things. So now the character's idle when I'm not pushing anything, and it shows the running animation when I am. But they're moonwalking when I go to the right, which is not good. We want them to actually turn around. So what we need to do is we want to know which way the character is facing. Then here we'll do that. Here we'll do this. Then here, if they are facing right, we are going to basically what this is doing is reversing the canvas, so things will be drawn backwards. And if we did this right, no, we did not do this right. What did we not do right here? Let's put this out like that. Man, I have where is my object? It's there. It's saying it should be there. What am I not doing right? Do I need to flip it back? Could that be what it is? No. So that didn't do anything. It's been so long since I've done this, I can't really remember. is. So I need to do this, and I need to draw this differently. I'm just not exactly sure how differently yet. So what I need to do here is I need to minus this. Is this what I need to do? No. So the problem is when I'm flipping the scale, it's grabbing the wrong spot in the sprite. So it's probably grabbing like empty space over here and drawing that. So I need to figure out when it's flipped, what does that change as far as the position on the canvas? I actually did this on the wrong one because I need it on the X value, not the Y value. Break this a little bit. I don't know what it's let's undo those. We need to flip it back afterwards. I don't think that's what's causing it though. Oh man. Da-dum.
Like a Hellcat.
What is it that I am not doing here? Uh, um,
Coming like a Hellcat.
Man, I don't remember how to do this now. Do I have an example of this somewhere? I don't think so.
Like a Hellcat.
Well, we're making some good progress there. Then this, quickly turned into a debugging stream, which is what I usually try to avoid, because it's not very helpful for you guys.
I'm walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for me. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around
Pretty sure.
trying to protect your soul.
Man, what am I doing wrong here? Get rid of this. I don't think that's necessary at all. Wish I could see what it was actually drawing here. Oh man. I know I did this a long time ago and I wish I still had that project I could reference. But sadly I do not. It was for a school project a long time ago. Pretty sure I don't have it anymore. Oh, you know what? I might. Did I ever do it in here?
I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul.
So I did this in this other project, but I didn't do any of that. This was pretty much all I did. Why is that not working? I wish I could see what it was actually, where it was actually grabbing on that image though. Oh, So what is wrong? Oh, wait a minute. What was that? So it is drawing it. It's just drawing it in the wrong spot. Why is it drawing it in the wrong spot? And why is it going backwards? So it's drawing the image correctly. But it's not drawing it in the right spot. So what I need to do... So I need to figure out why the positioning is wrong. So I think... Let's go back to doing this separately. Alright. There we go. It was just drawing it in the wrong spot. It's not quite the smoothest thing. The character's not turning around exactly in place. But we can deal with that for now. So I apologize for the long amount of debugging to get there. Because I thought it was not drawing the image correctly, but it was actually drawing the image correctly, just in the wrong spot on the page. But yes, so now we have a character that we can run around the screen. We haven't done jumping yet, but we'll worry about jumping later. Yeah, I think... So I only have like 25 minutes left. I don't particularly think anything I want to do next is going to get done in 25 minutes. So I would like to go to anyone here that's watching, because I know I kind of skimmed over a lot of stuff doing this. If you guys have any questions about how I did something or why I did something, or if you just want a piece of anything I did explained a little bit better, please feel free to ask. We'll do a little Q&A session here before I end the stream.
I never said I was perfect. See, I never claimed to be, cause perfect is perception. Perception is all that they can see. A vacancy replacing these space and place where my heart should be. Harping on these emotions, self-loathing, broken. What's wrong with me? A song to me is more than just some bullshit in words. It's the only time some nobody like me will be heard. I was that kid that would get picked last, never the one that would skip class, never the puff when the piff passed. So me in a rap is a mismatch, right? The stereotype got me feeling uptight, got me wanting to fight. I've been up every night as I write and I write. I've been looking for light in the dark. dream. That's what they told me. If I listened to your dumb ass, I'd regret it as the old me.
So the first time I ever used Canvas was when I was in school, and it was one of the projects that we had to do. Was we had to make a. There's an old school, like Atari game. I think it was Atari. Yeah. We basically had to recreate this game in Canvas. That was our project. So I did that in school. And from there, I mean, I just kind of kept expanding. I mean, Canvas is a fun thing to play around with, obviously. I've always liked the idea of making games. I would like to be in game development, but that's not it's not really the route I went, and it wouldn't be easy for me to get a job in game development right now, so doing things like this in Canvas kind of fulfills that want to develop a game. And you really can't do game development on the side because there's so much work that goes into developing a game that, like, if I wanted to build an actual game from the ground up starting now on the side, it would like maybe get released in 10 years, which by then everything I started writing now would be useless because it'd be all outdated, so it just wouldn't be practical. Yeah, I mean, it's fun building games, it's fun. So, one of the main reasons I got into programming to begin with was the ability to write some code and see things come to life on the screen. And with Canvas, it's like taking that to the next level, because you're not just writing code to make things come to life on the screen, you're making code to give you the ability to make things come to life on the screen. I don't know, Vespi. Maybe when maybe if I continue on developing this game on stream, I can open source the code, and it could become like a community project as well, where other people can can add stuff to it or whatever. And we can kind of like develop our own little browser game live on Twitch. Give our character here a little world to run around in with some enemies to fight or something. I don't know. I didn't really plan very far ahead with this game. Basically, how the idea for the stream came about is I found this sprite sheet online one day. I just thought, hey, that looks like a pretty cool character to make a game out of. So as far as planning for this went, this is it. This is all I got, is a character. But yeah, so I don't have a very big programming community around my stream. Like 90%, probably 95% of the people that follow me and show up to my streams come to the gaming side of it, not the programming side of it. But if I were to be able to build up the programming side of my viewer base, we could have a nice little community built web-based game or something. I don't know. We'll just have to keep working on the stuff and see if people show up, if people enjoy watching me do what I do. That is exactly right, Vespi. Alright. Well, I am going to end my stream here. Well, Slippy Frog followed me earlier. My Twitch alerts didn't even go off for it. Or if they did, I didn't hear them. So if Slippy's still here, thank you for that follow. But yeah, I believe Vespi's stream is going to be going live here in about a little over an hour. So I got some things I want to do before that happens. But yeah, if there's anyone here lurking that enjoyed the stream, feel free to follow. I try to do programming streams on Saturdays. Not always great with keeping on that schedule, but I try my best. I do other gaming streams throughout the week. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed, feel free to follow. Vespi just linked my Discord and my Twitter and my chat. You can follow me on those to keep up to date on what's going on. And yes, Vespi, I finished my laundry already. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.